So, hello and welcome to this first episode of the Curiosity Talks podcast, a new format here at the Kvalifik, where we are trying out to take some of the water cooler conversations that we have anyway and put them in a podcast format. It might be interesting for you to listen in as well. This is kind of an extension of a new in-person format that we are starting called Curiosity Talks, where we just had the first event with more to come. So you can always follow us to meet in person as well if that could be relevant in the future. So today for this first episode, what we have in store for you is a little dive into MCP, what it is and our experiences with it. So here at Kvalifik, we do web development and a lot of what we do is done through Webflow. And recently they added support for this new technology called MCP, which is a way for AI clients to talk to APIs in a way where they know which endpoints are available to them and can pick and choose for themselves. I completely, in this first try, forgot to mention the crowd I have with me here today. So I'm joined by Søren and Riziki. I don't know if you want to put a few words to yourself here at the Kvalifik.
Absolutely. So my name is Søren. I'm a partner and design director here at Kvalifik.
Yeah, and I'm Riziki, senior digital designer here at Kvalifik.
And myself, I'm Patrick, a technical project manager here at Kvalifik. So in all different roles, we somehow all found a interest in this MCP thing and have tried it out a bit. In this case, it has been specifically for the Webflow integration. And I think it could be interesting to hear what we have tried to use it for and where we see the potential and the limitations in it. I would say one of the first things that came to mind when this thing became available and I tried it out, I said to Riziki, yeah, it's cool and all, but I really hoped it could be like I prompt Claude to make a website for me and it would just go ahead and do it. And at that point, it was so early that it couldn't create collections or anything inside Webflow. So I quickly got away from it. But then in the meantime, Søren, you kind of picked up and had a different view of it that was more on the structured data side of things.
Yeah. So I don't know when you first tried it out. When was that?
So when they launched, I don't know, I think still it's in it's beta numbered 0 point something. It was 0.1 or something like that. At that point, it's probably 0.3 or something now.
Yeah, now I think it's a bit more powerful with what it can do. So yeah, I just dived into it this past week and had some very specific tasks in mind with regards to the launch of our own new website. That was a fun and good use case for seeing what this can do. And I must say, once I got it set up, I was pretty mind blown about what this can do and what this gonna mean for web development in general. This is nothing you could not do before with accessing, in this case, the Webflow API, but just the fact that you can have a natural conversation with your website in this way, it's pretty mind blowing.
Yeah, that seems to be the key aspect of it, right? Because it's nothing new. It's kind of like you had APIs before. Now the LLM or chatbot just knows what is available and can act upon it. I think that is interesting is that you have this concept of AI agents that could do these things before, but you had to very explicitly set it up yourself and tell the AI whenever the user asks for X and Y, you use X and Y endpoint to do that. And it was kind of twofold in the way that, so you could do that, but you could not, you would have to do it in some setup you make of your own. There are tools like N8N, we tried out that to make it, for example, where you run some server that can actually do the things for you. But now,
so it might end up taking a lot longer than you just doing the thing you wanted to do.
Right. So it's a very specific setup. You kind of need to think it out, where now you just dive in and talk to Claude, and it knows what to do. And this is also kind of the difference, right? Because before the setup was quite technical, where now it's still like, I don't know if I would say it's beginner friendly at all, but it's like with a well-written guide, anybody could set up the MCP tools inside of Claude Desktop as of right now and start using it.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's like you have a super fast like developer just at hand, like that can do these things on your website. But it's not just a developer. I mean, it's also because it have all the capabilities of the large language model you're using. So it can also be like the biggest expert within like a domain or like a super translator, all these other things that it can then do and interact with the data that you have on your side. And that's also the cool thing.
Maybe, Søren, would you mind giving some examples of what you like more concretely got it to do on the side?
Yeah, I tried out different things, and one of the things that worked well is like simple things like writing meta descriptions, meta titles for the website, which is also a good AI task. Like you already have some content, then you kind of have to boil it down, fill it with keyword and a lot of bullshit, and that's what LLMs are good at. So it's very good at that. And here it really seemed like it was actually good at doing it on my whole site. Like, so I could just ask it, do this, and then it went through all the static pages and updated it.
So the power is that it kind of gets the ability to just do bulk updates, or is it more than that?
That's one of the things, like you could do this with ChatGPT, but then you would have to copy paste like the whole page content or tell it go to this URL, write the meta description, these are the limitations, and then copy it back and do that for each like field. Here it just does it and it can see what you already have and then also improve on that if you ask it to do that.
So get some context for free, kind of, that you wouldn't do if you did it one by one. Just
exactly, because it knows kind of the whole structure. So that was one use case, pretty straightforward one. Then I used it to do some analysis of the site, like say, okay, how can this become more accessible? What can we do? And then it pointed out, okay, there's some images that lacks all text, there's these general things by analyzing like the page structures and so on, which was pretty cool. And then I've used it mostly as a translator. So Webflow has a built-in translation tool where you click a button, but the translation is not very good. It's like Google Translate was 5 years ago,
Right.
kind of that level. So the new language models are much better at writing something that just sounds natural. And then you can use that and then ask it to go in and update and translate to specific languages.
I think one of the things we talked about here earlier is also, it seems like when you use the built-in machine translation inside of Webflow, for example, it is probably AI driven, but it's looking very isolated at each piece of text that it needs to translate, where it seems like the LLMs, they understand the context of the whole site as a translate, and that seems to bring a more coherent way of translating.
Yeah, I also think that just better. I think it's kind of both. And the fact is, then you can prompt it. Like I can prompt it to say, you are the world's best translator, do something that sounds natural in Danish. It doesn't have to be like literal one-to-one translation. And for context, there will be this digital agency, have this tone of voice and so on.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot do that when you just hit like the auto-translate button in Webflow.
Oh, I guess you could say something about your audience, right? This is a medtech site, and it's for the industry people who would like be very technical in their language, something like that.
And exactly what a like professional translator would do. They would have that context. They would know kind of, okay, I have to use these technical vocabulary or so on. And they wouldn't translate like one-to-one. When you go in on Apple's side, the Danish side there, it's like the headlines are not one-to-one with the English one because they try and come up with new wordplays and so on.
How, was it all just a dance on roses?
No. With the translation, I pretty quickly hit some limitations in terms of the context window, so that it tried to do too much at once or more that it could have in the chat. Also the length of the chat, where then had to continue and kind of compresses that. So the thing is, you cannot do everything at once and just say, okay, translate everything on my side, and then boom, it's translated. You have to kind of break it down, and then also know that it still takes a bit of time for it to go through, and you have to kind of say yes at every step in the process, where, okay, now it looks up the page, finds the different pages, find what the content is today, then it writes the new content, and then it publishes it. And you have to kind of say yes at each step. Then in that chat, it will remember that you've said yes, but then you also hit the limitation for that chat and have to start over.
Right.
So,
and I guess context windows is something that is continuously improving, and so here I think also what we talked about, it could be very interesting. Like now we have just used Claude because that's the easiest way to set it up and get it going, but there are setups where you could use other models, like the Google Gemini ones that has enormous context windows, where they might do a lot better in a job like this.
I also tried to set it up with Cursor, where you can select between different models, but I think I might not have set it up correctly. But there, I could not really get it to work, other than this simple task of looking up things, writing the meta descriptions, but the translations wouldn't work at all.
But so some more investigation to be done there for sure.
Yeah.
I think an interesting thing is that then after you tried that out and you got a bit more into it, Riziki, you kind of picked up where I left a bit on the idea of having it do design tasks and not only structured data.
Yeah, and what I could see is that it is still quite limited in what it can actually do in the designer in terms of creating new sections and content, because it does seem to have an API tool that's called update static content, but it doesn't, at least yet, allow to create new stuff that's not already there on the page. So we will hit some limitations, but we're also very much in the early days, and we see updates coming like almost weekly still.
Yeah, where do you see that going in terms of like it getting more abilities to do stuff like that? What would you be most stoked about having it help out with? Is there any like dream use case where you see that it could like do some daily chore that we have to do anyway, but like just makes us able to spend more time on things that bring more value, or anything in that regards?
So in terms of creating new stuff, I still think it's still hard for me to see how it will be able to solve new design tasks in a good way. But I see, and probably it can already do that now, a lot of value in checking pages for empty links, or to review if we have added area labels, or checking that the structure of the page is good, because it should be able to get all of that information and then like use the knowledge from Claude or the AI model to review and
for sure. It's going to be our new like first step in the QA process, probably from here. Yeah, super interesting.
And I think it's also where it becomes really interested is then when your AI models is also connected to other things like your design in Figma, or where you give it that, like I could imagine that you would give, when you do a new design, like give it the sitemap and then say, okay, do the overall structure for the collections, like the database for this come with the draft here. That's also where I saw pretty powerful illustrations on how it could go in and do that. and come with recommendations for good structures.
That's super interesting. I imagine that, so we use Relume a lot to build out sitemaps and get the initial wireframing done. And in that case, we already have a lot of the information for what would have to be included in the structure of the data for CMS collection, for example. So it could be interesting, first of all, if you could just screenshot it and give it to Claude, for example, and it would be able to do it now. But I guess in the future, like we see more and more tools being able to support this MCP technology, like whether something like Relume would get that, and there's some integration that could happen there.
Yeah, and I think that probably another use case which would be nice for an MCP for Webflow would be to actually create landing pages where it uses the component that we've defined on the site. So it could generate the content and put together a page that uses predefined components. And
right. So if we already tailor a site to a client that would like to use Webflow's build mode, for example, where we have a lot of sections that are just easy for them to drag in, then the MCP, like Claude through the MCP, would understand what is available and use those building blocks. So in a sense, we immediately get something that is on brand with the client's intention and is so like, where the build mode is gonna be super easy for everybody to use already, it takes a step even further.
Yeah, so I think that could be really fun to play around with when that becomes available at some point.
Yeah, and then when the client has access to it, then I mean they can then easily say create a landing page for my new event for this and this, and then it would do it all. So I guess it's also just a matter of time before this is built in Webflow. So yeah. So what does this leave, or what does this mean for us as you see it? Like,
yeah, it's super interesting. Like, would we today go out and instruct a client to use this when we know it's probably gonna be way different in a month, or something like that? But on the other hand, can we afford to not experiment with these things and kind of try it out? I think it's easy enough to change the ways we operate along the way. That it probably depends on who we're working with. We have clients that are more curious as to what these new technologies can offer than others, and here there's definitely a fit just to try something out, I think. Yeah. Cool. I think this does it for this time around. The intention is that these talks shouldn't be too long, so it works for your daily commute or whatever. We're super interested to hear what you think about this. So if you have any feedback for the show, please leave it in an email to us or on LinkedIn, or that's probably the inboxes that we will check. You can find all of our contact info on our website, kvalifik.dk.
our new website.
Yeah, check that out. Give some feedback there as well. We're constantly improving what we got. Yeah. So I think the only thing left here to say, or did you have anything? So
No. Thanks for hosting and inviting us in to talk about this.
Absolutely.
Super stoked about this.
Super fun to try out. Let's hope there's many more to come. And thank you for listening in out there. Hope to see you, to have you on the podcast next time around as well.